So hello everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, maybe good morning to everyone who's here. Hi Pete. So
how you doing?
Great. So welcome. So now we're just waiting for teachers to come in, and I'm going to give a little bit like opening for all the teachers who's here with us today. So welcome back to the ELTea Time chat show with Macmillan Education. We're now back with the brand new season 2. This is the first episode of this season, so a very warm welcome from Shanghai to everyone. Maybe a little bit very like too hot. What about you guys? Where are you based in? Dale and Pete?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to the chat. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the session. Yeah, I'm Dale. I work for Macmillan Education, and I am here in Nonthaburi, just outside of Bangkok. Yeah, and it's going to be a beautiful evening, I think. No rain today. Pete, where are you at, mate?
I'm based in Bering in Bangkok. Right now, sitting at my desk at St Andrews 107 International School.
Long day today, then, yeah.
It has been, yeah. It's getting to the end of term though, so.
Cool. After one day's teaching, so welcome Dale and Pete, and welcome all the audience from everywhere across Asia. I can tell from Taiwan, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand. Wow, very big welcome. And today, for those who are new, for those who are new to ELTea Time, let me just give you a little bit background information first. So along with my colleague Dale, I am Super, forgot to introduce myself. I am Super, along with my colleague Dale, and also more guest speakers from this season like Pete, we're going to explore a variety of trending topics in the ELT field. For example, global skills, assessment, digital teaching skills, and so on. So in these short 30-minute sessions, we will swap ideas, share our experiences on a variety of questions and challenges posted by you, the teachers. We have collected, a lot of questions and the challenges from you guys. So hopefully we'll be able to share something useful and helpful to your daily teaching. And it is part of our 2022 professional development program. So please join us as much as you can to develop yourself as a teacher, as maybe a teacher trainer, or as a manager of teachers. And there is a chance for you to win a prize at the end of the year as well. So without further ado, let me just jump into today's topic. So we're going to talk about digital teaching skills today. As many teachers in Asia, we are gradually moving back from online teaching to face-to-face teaching. And some of you are still doing hybrid teaching at the moment. So today we're going to reflect on how we went about teaching online and what the skills are we have developed and the technology we have utilized during this pandemic, and as well as how we are going to transit from online to face-to-face teaching. Okay, and at the end, we're going to finish with reflections on how we feel about the future with digital teaching and the skills we need. So grab a cup of tea, join us to start the discussion right now. So I have got some red tea at the moment. What about you, Pete and Dale? What have you got?
After you, Dale.
I've got some peppermint tea. It's a bit late for me for caffeine, so I'm on peppermint.
Does it taste pepperminty?
Yeah, it tastes lovely, yeah. Spot on. What about you?
Great.
I got Lipton, something or other. Right. It was whatever was in the staff room, official school mug. Yeah. Someone else's, actually. I nicked it. Someone called Hannah.
Oh, Hannah. Thanks, Hannah.
And let us know what tea are you having at the moment in the chat box. Feel free. Okay, so now we're going to kick off for the first question. So far, I guess, Pete, you have been teaching online for a while, and Dale, you have experience like training and teaching online. So what did you enjoy most about teaching or training online. So here you go. Maybe start from Dale.
No, I'm gonna let our fantastic guest begin, because I just want to say thank you so much, Pete, for your time today. Really appreciate you're our first guest that we've had, and I really value your input. As you know, but the chat might not know, me and Pete go back quite a few years. We worked together at the British Council, and I was delighted when you agreed to be our first guest, and I think we're very privileged to have you. So you go with the first question. What did you enjoy about teaching online, Pete?
Okay, cheers, Del. So a lot of things. I would say the camaraderie was one. It was a good sort of leveler, I think, for teachers. Some teachers were better at tech than others, obviously, but I think overall it was one of those where people accepted they needed areas, had areas of development, you know, and so it was a good way to kind of get everyone together. That was something really positive. The learners, I really enjoyed teaching those and seeing them flourish, actually, right. Which was I wouldn't, you know, you always got to have high expectations. So I don't want to say it was a surprise, but I was worried how it would go, and they were super positive, reacted so well to it.
That's great. That's great to hear, because I think I've listened to a lot of teachers about their experiences, and a lot of them have mentioned that the opposite side to that, where some learners haven't had access to the education that they would have got from a face-to-face class. So that's great to hear that your learners have done well. I think for me it was quite a steep learning curve, but I quite enjoyed that. I quite enjoyed that learning curve of learning new skills from teaching online. And it was kind of obviously enforced. I didn't expect to have to do that, but it was good to do that. And I don't know, it just seemed to go really, really quick with new things coming out all the time, and you really had to keep up to speed with things. And that was pretty cool to be able to experience that, I thought.
Yes, I think for teachers, it is a good opportunity.
I think, to be honest, in the situation. Sorry.
Yeah, Pete, please.
There's a little bit of a delay.
A little bit delay, yeah.
Yeah, go on, Pete.
Sorry.
It's all right.
It was just that I kind of felt I was in a bit of a privileged position working at an international school that's quite well funded. It meant that we had good tech opportunities, and I think that it wasn't really the case in some areas. You know, some of the government schools here, it was much harder. And some of my friends that had kids going to the government schools there found that what was provided wasn't necessarily as adequate. So we were lucky, definitely.
Yep, yeah. I agree, but you still have to take advantage of that, and you can only. It's like when you talk about playing football, and it's like you can only play what's in front of you, right? You know, you can only teach what's in front of you. So good luck to you. If it was great for you, then fantastic. What did you feel about the you said camaraderie? How did you build that then within a? Because obviously you're working from home. How did you build camaraderie with colleagues?
I was when we first started teaching online. Actually, I just started the job, so I'd never met anyone, which was a little,
wow.
Yeah. So I had to. So that was the type. I had to make the choice of basically putting myself out there and sending emails, meeting them, getting on meets, getting on any tea time chats they had at the school, and talking through difficulties or things that were going well and stuff. But there was a lot set up at the school as well. We had things like an IT coordinator, one of the teachers. We had like advocates for the different software we were using, and that meant that they were in communication quite a lot.
Okay, that's
with tips and stuff like this. So yeah, that was brilliant. It was actually, there was one main teacher in secondary, a history teacher, who was also the main tech advocate, and you could go to her with any, and she was always available to speak to. So that was really good, and she'd point you in the right direction of other teachers that were quite savvy with certain aspects of the tech, you know. So that was really good.
I think we're moving to the second question now. Maybe we should just pop up the question. So what was your biggest challenge? Because we're talking about tech knowledge, equipment. Yeah, you must have encountered different kinds of challenges like that. Do you have any like a thing interferes most about your online teaching, the biggest challenges to you?
I think if I just take this one, Peter, I think my biggest challenge was what we've just discussed. It was not having any contact with people face to face, really, and it was more of a. It wasn't. I didn't really have any technical challenges, and I think I could keep up to date with apps and trying best to engage people with online training and using different things to do that. But what for me it was just losing those sort of social skills of listening to people and basically being very self-conscious about when it did come back to face-to-face meeting people, that I wasn't talking too much and that I was actually listening. And because most of the contact is you talking, you're listening to the chat, but you're not really listening to people talking. So that was my biggest challenge. And I'm still self-conscious about it now, so I'm going to shut up and let Pete talk.
No, it was exactly the same for me. Like my teacher talking to me at the best of times, it's pretty high anyway. And online, when no one's speaking and trying to get interaction going, and it's like, I'm just going to sort of feel this silence, which is in the classroom. You've got the body language a lot more, and you can, when there's thinking time, the students need processing time or thinking time and that, and online sometimes it's just not as forthcoming, so that was definitely similar for me. But I think the hardest within that as well was we were using Google Meets, and we hadn't paid for like the breakout rooms at the time with them.
Right.
And that was massive, because when you're teaching EAL and there's big communication aspect with it, and you need that interaction between the learners like desperately. And when without the breakout rooms, I was having tab after tab open of these different meets, and it was really tricky. The noise was, I had to mute different tabs and stuff, and it was just a bit cumbersome and fiddly, to be honest. So that was a challenge. I would have said as well, setting up collaboration outside of the learners collaborating. We did have, there's also like safeguarding issues of that as well, so a few things like that, big issues, I think.
How did you get on in terms of your own physical well-being? Because for me, when I first started doing webinars, particularly the long webinars, and by long I mean 2-hour sort of training sessions, I felt really exhausted, and I could only imagine what it would be like to actually teach for any amount of time, children in particular. I really felt like there was a lot of prominence put on well-being of learners. But maybe we should be thinking a lot more about well-being of teachers as well, because I found it really exhausting. I don't know if everybody else did in the chat. I'm not sure. What did you feel?
I made myself get in a routine with it, with like the Joe Wicks stuff, and
Right.
and just going for a run straight after as well was really good. But I had my kids at home as well, so actually, as much as it was like difficult, it was difficult to manage, right, having your kids there, but actually it was really good for well-being, because you finish your lesson, you got 15 minutes, and it's like, I don't know, go and play some Lego or something, and it takes your mind off it, kind of thing. It's good.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? Yeah, and you have more time with your kids as well, right? Because you're not commuting.
Yeah, you get the shouts from downstairs, "Daddy," when that's a bit awkward, but yeah.
Yeah, I got to know my daughter. Oh, sorry,
yeah, you go on, Del.
Hey, I got to know my daughter a bit better as well. She's a lot older than your kids, Pete. But that was something that we really enjoyed, was actually spending much more time with each other as a family. And then when my wife went back to work, is just with me and my daughter. It was nice.
It's great to hear that you get along with your children during the lockdown time, because I heard many stories about children being naughty and parents getting mad, stuff like that. Anything going on like that in your family as well?
Don't get me wrong, I'm really pleased she's back to school face to face now. I'm very happy. I wouldn't want it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. In the chat box, teachers are mentioning about the focus issue. It's hard to get the students focus on the lesson when teaching online. And maybe Pete, you have mentioned about how to get them engaged and focused, maybe due to different kind of platform. Oh, where am I? The platform you're using, yeah, to try to solve that problem a little bit. So what are the platforms you use, like mainly for your online teaching during this 2 years?
Who's that to,
No,
Super? Okay. So yeah, I mean, our situation's a little bit different, of course. So I was doing teacher training, not sort of teaching learners, but we still had a similar issue with engagement. This word engagement was really my key word for 2021. It seemed to come up all the time. I think it, yeah, we always got requests for how to engage our learners, but in the same way, how to engage teachers. And one of the key areas was obviously becoming good with a platform. We use Zoom predominantly. Before that, we used Adobe Connect, and we used Click Meeting as well. Click Meeting was really good because you could use it breakout rooms in a webinar format. And Zoom doesn't have that function at this moment. But really, for the engagement, I think the breakout rooms are key for me. And again, it takes that focus off you as a presenter or as a teacher. But you need to train your learners how to use breakout rooms, and that's the key thing that we found. Was we were having teachers say, well, they won't do anything in the breakout rooms, and then we kind of dug a bit deeper, and it was clear that people weren't spending that time that was needed really to teach students how to use breakout rooms and what to do in breakout rooms and scaffold them in those breakout rooms. And it was similar to what we did when we were doing teacher training. How about you, Pete? What do you think?
Yeah, that was a massive issue about training. Whichever tools we were using, you know, the training using the platforms was massive. But we were using Google Meets for the actual online lessons, but we had Google Classroom, and I was teaching in primary and secondary, and the main platforms we had in primary were Seesaw, and then it was Google Meets in secondary. And so I hadn't used either of them, so I had to kind of try and hit the ground running with them. And I thought they were extremely versatile. I love the Google Classroom, how easy it is to integrate so many different apps and stuff like this into it. But one of the things that I felt was really useful was using Loom. I used a lot of that, which is like a screencasting tool, right?
Tell me more. I don't know Loom.
It's just screencasting, recording videos, but we were getting a weekly challenge for the learners to make sure they were getting speaking. It was planned speaking, but like we would give them a task where we give them input at the start of the week, like something like, lockdown in pictures, and they do like sort of five of their pictures from around their house, and they describe them and stuff, and they'd record a video, and then they'd upload it onto the Google Classroom stream. And it was really good for like the asynchronous communication, like not in the moment or whatever. They'd be able to click on the video. It could even respond in Loom. The other learners can watch it and they can comment on the video at different points, or they can respond in a video as well, or they can comment on Google Classroom. And I just thought that totally upped the amount of interaction and the engagement, because they knew they were going to be doing these tasks. They knew it was going to be presented. They knew they had time to plan it as well. So it wasn't the platform. It was more this like one tool that I just felt worked so well with my learners.
Yeah, and I think going back to that word asynchronous, and I think when we first started, we made a distinction, obviously, between asynchronous learning and synchronous and engagement within the two. But I think it's very important, obviously, to let learners know that language as well, and let them know what's expected of them when they're studying asynchronously, or that they can study asynchronously if they want to by watching recordings. So there was a lot more opportunity to learn differently, I felt. But that key thing of training learners to know what to expect and how to go about it really helped with engagement.
Yeah, I think not only training the students, but also training your fellow teachers, the parents, everybody's engaged in this learning process. So it's a lot of work, a lot of skills needs to be developed. But I think that's a good thing, because after 2.5 years, we have already developed a skill set that can be further expanded to our future education. So yeah, I think you have already mentioned some of the apps you have used. So what were your go-to apps for your online teaching, and also maybe something you still find very, very useful, the apps that you can use in the hybrid teaching or face-to-face teaching as well? Yeah, maybe Pete first.
Cool. When we were using Seesaw, I thought that was brilliant in general, because it was like, I just liked the interface on it. They basically made it so simple to use. It was like it looked like a glorified kind of MS Paint or something. So it just meant that you didn't have to, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but they didn't care too much about the aesthetics, you know, and they got the task done really well. So they didn't care too much about how it looked, which was kind of good actually. Type bit of a time saver really. But yeah, we used a lot of like assignments to check like prior knowledge and stuff using Wordwall. That was really good. So many different games and activities in the community there as well. There's often activities already there, you know, to use. And there was the standard ones I was using before, like Quizlet, like popped in as well. Someone's just mentioned Pear Deck, and there were a few things that I tried, and I really did like the Pear Deck slides, and that was one that did go down well. But I ended up getting that sort of wow factor with so many tools, and I started to get, to be honest, I started to get quite unprincipled in the way I got into a lot of stuff quite quickly. I introduced it to the learners, but I didn't really kind of think straight away about what problem it solved, you know, or what it did better than something already had. And I started to go overboard with introducing these tools that when I ended up stripping it back down, I came back to almost 3 or 4 tools that I was already using before we started online. I realized that they were kind of sufficient anyway, you know, with a few little add-ons, you know. So that was a bit of a learning curve, to be honest.
That's interesting, because I think me and you both have had experience of using interactive whiteboards in the past, and people who use them effectively, and then people who use them as these brilliant presentation tools, but really there was no use for the learners really, but they looked amazing. They spend hours preparing this kind of thing. I watched a webinar with Russell Stannard. I'm sure you know who Russell Stannard is, right? He's kind of like, he's got lots and lots of ideas on tech, and he gave a really good piece of advice, and it was to choose sort of 5 apps that you like, that work, that are effective, and then just become an expert using those. And so basically less is more. And that's what I tried to do. So I just became an expert at like using Mentimeter, Jamboard. I know you've written a blog about Jamboard on your excellent website, which we'll put into the chat. Padlet, and you mentioned Wordwall as well. So yeah, just got really, really good at these apps, and that really helped me. Otherwise, you could just become consumed by them all, right? There's so many.
Yeah, definitely. There was one that I really found useful. The primary EAL coordinator here, she recommended one for reading, mostly like extensive reading or leading to topic, which was Newsella, and that was really good because you could find articles on loads of different topics. It would sort of integrate really well into Google Classroom. You could share them straight away. It was really cool. And also you could, if you had at the time when, you know, during the pandemic, a lot of the stuff was free. So you got like comprehension questions as well, which was quite good. But you could also change the level of the text if you wanted. You could change the Lexile level. So you could actually upload the same text in different levels if you felt it was beneficial for the learners. It was so good to get them into reading, because I'd never, the learners that were coming in term 3, it was when I was online, I hadn't met them either. So I needed to kind of build that rapport online as well, and get them learning and practicing all skills and that. And it was tricky. So that reading tool was excellent.
Cool. And so we're talking sort of in the past really a bit, but are you're now teaching face-to-face. Are you using any of these apps now in your face-to-face classes as well, either for homework or during the lessons?
Yeah, like occasionally we're talking about Jamboard, and occasionally that comes back in, like when there's a collaborative task or something like that. Loom I'm still using. I found it so beneficial to do those video response tasks that we have that going in the background as well. And sometimes we have it as a kind of as an optional, like a student choice of how they want to respond to a task by doing a video presentation. Like if they want to explain their knowledge on a science topic, for example, get them to do a science explain a video in like YouTube style. So it's crept in, you know.
That's great.
And the other stuff like verbal and stuff is always there.
Yeah.
There before. Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
So I have already put some of the apps, the websites to download the apps in the chat box. Teachers feel free to go and have a look and check out what's used for your classroom as well. Yeah, and also along with the apps, I think we have also got something we can transit from like online to face teaching. So let's move on to the next question. Yeah, what was the thing you think useful to be transferred to the face-to-face classes?
Yeah, I think my reflections of it's so far so good. I've had face-to-face training with teachers in Thailand. I've visited a couple of schools, and it's been really great to meet them. But as I said before, I have to be very conscious that I'm not just talking their ears off, and I'm actually listening to what they're saying. So I would tell people just to tell me to shut up if I'm talking too much. But yeah, so that's been great. So that transition so far has been great. And next month I'm going to Vietnam, where I'm going to meet loads and loads of teachers there. I'm going to be there for 2 weeks, so I can't wait to get out there and meet teachers face to face again. Online training has been great, and I've enjoyed it. It's served a really much needed purpose. It's been great because we can meet a large number of teachers online, you know, in one place. I don't need to go anywhere, but I don't feel, and maybe Pete, you can talk to this, having experienced this with your students, going back face to face. You mentioned body language, but sharing that body language and that interaction, it can't be replicated. And I think it's a human need. I really do. What do you think, Pete?
No, I totally agree. And just that feeling of when I first met these kids coming back in term 1, you know, and I hadn't even, I mean, it was funny because I saw their foreheads for a term on the cameras, right? And then I thought I might actually see what they look like, and we've got masks on in the school, so I still
okay, right.
So
right.
until it gets to July the 1st and we've got the masks, you know, not mandatory masks here, I might actually see what they look like after a year and 3 months or whatever. But yeah, I think the thing for me, you've already mentioned, the thing that I would take forward from face to face is about making assumptions. I made too many assumptions about the knowledge of the learners as regards like the tech tools, you know, and how much they would take to them without necessarily needed training. And as I said, that IT coordinator, she was really good at doing like explainer videos for the tools, which was great. But for me, what's happened with that is less the tech tools now. I realise there are things that I've missed in the class because stuff like, I assume a lot about the task knowledge of the learners. I feel that, you know, certain tasks they do in the exams seem to be sort of quite obvious and quite explicit. And then I realize actually they don't know how to do these tasks, right? So learning about, realizing that I was making assumptions about them not understanding tech tools also kind of makes me realize that maybe they don't understand a lot about the tasks they're doing, and they need task training as well. So that's kind of had a knock-on effect, you know. I mean, things like recently we're looking at like command words and phrases, and you know, some of the scores were low in a certain subject because mostly they weren't understanding the questions, you know, specifically, and we weren't teaching that aspect of it. So I came to other realizations other than tech stuff.
Can I ask you a specific question, maybe about a teaching skill at this point? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I like to. I've written blogs and done sessions on error correction, but it's always been sort of face-to-face error correction. How did you? Obviously, correcting someone, I would imagine face-to-face is much easier than correcting them online. You can monitor better, I would imagine, face-to-face. How did you notice any difference to that in terms of that specific teaching skill?
Yeah, I did actually. I used a lot more delayed correction, and I think it was because obviously I wanted to get as much communication going. I wanted to build as much confidence with these learners that I hadn't met as well. You know, they were speaking often engaging in English mostly together for the first time in that kind of context, and talking about subjects as well, very tricky content. And I kind of took a step back from correcting them any time in the moment, unless it was very specific things like pronunciation that hindered our understanding and stuff. But most of the time it was delayed. I used a lot more delayed correction.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
And I've gone through phases of that in my teaching anyway, prior to online. Depends on how much, what the communicative focus is compared to like a certain element of accuracy or something. So I've fluctuated with it anyway. But how about you?
Yeah, well, my in terms of error correction, I don't really have to do too much of that, but certainly checking understanding and that kind of thing. If you've got someone face to face, you really know if they haven't got it or not. If they haven't got what you're talking about, right? And you might use body language to then use questions to check understanding and that kind of thing. Yeah, so I was just interested in that, because how you would go about doing that online. Anyway, cool.
Yeah, so let's move on to the last question for today. What online teaching skills are you taking forward? Anything you find it useful, or you have developed something new before the after the pandemic that you can use in your classroom or in your training, in your daily teaching as well? Yeah, shall we
you go first,
start
Pete.
from Pete? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess I've kind of already mentioned it really, but I guess it's that element of choice with like how the learners do the task. I think I brought that in a little bit more, and I think it was because I did that quite a lot with online learning and giving far more choice basically with how they want to complete the task.
Okay, yeah, so that's interesting, because yeah, you have lots of different ways of, I guess, using online apps and tools. You have lots of different ways of presenting something and then even checking understanding. So yeah, having that choice and then passing that on to learners is cool. It's really good to give them that. I think that helps with their learning to learn skills as well, their metacognition as well, if they've got a choice of what they have to how they can learn. I think for me, moving forward, I think just continuing to look at how we can do asynchronous stuff as well as synchronous stuff online. So I think looking at what we're doing and how we can, which platform we can use. Now, what platform I mean face-to-face. I think sessions like we're doing now are perfect for an online platform, having a chat, having a discussion. This is great. I think it's probably more engaging like this than if we were sat in a conference having a chat in that respect. I don't think it would, a presentation might be better there. So I think looking at how we do things and how having this whole new tool of online learning is what I'm trying to take forward, and how that can be, even though people, I think, really want to throw it away now and they want to go back to face-to-face, I think it's not going to be, and how we then utilize these new skills and we don't forget about it and we continue to develop in both areas is what I'm interested in.
Yes, I agree, because I think online teaching and also all those resources we can find online using those apps and platforms can add more variety and options to your teaching and to your students' learning at the same time. So when like the pandemic is over, even if we're back face-to-face like 100%, we have become someone with more teaching skills that can add more I think interesting part of teaching into the classroom to make students more engaged, and they will be more motivated, taking more like a responsibility in their own learning. At the same time, have more options to present what they have learned, sharing their learning experience with the teachers and with their classmates. It's also very, very cool, for the young learners, for the teenagers to explore their own learning. Yeah, so thank you very much for your insights about digital teaching skills and also the transition between the online teaching and the face-to-face teaching. So teachers have been very active in the chat box, sharing their ideas. Yeah, they have been discussing with us at the same time. They shared their apps as well, and also the skills they have acquired during the pandemic. So yeah, it's great. It's nice to see you again for like 30 minutes for a chat show. And also it's great to hear from the teachers. I hope to see you soon, very quickly for the next episode.
Yeah,
so
we'll be coming in July. We have another session coming up in July, so that we're keeping these going for the remainder of the year. And again, just a huge thank you to you, Pete, for being our guest today. And I want everybody to know in the chat, I'm just going to put the link again to Pete's website. It's a fantastic website. And if whatever level you're teaching or whatever you're, just get on that. And there's loads and loads of ideas, and you can learn more about Pete and find out more about his writing. Pete's an author. He's a teacher. He's very much a master of everything. So we're delighted to have him today. Pete has written books for Macmillan. He's written books for other publishers. Has a new IELTS book out at the moment, right, Pete? That you wrote with Paul Murphy.
With our ex-colleague, yeah.
So congratulations on that, and I hope that flies off the shelf.
Nice one. Cheers. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and it's been great to have you. Thank you, Super, for hosting.
Yeah, and I just want to share you the Facebook and WeChat QR code for you to follow us and keep an eye on our following episodes of ELTea Time and other webinar series. Yeah, you can follow us on Facebook if you're based in the rest of Asia. If you're in China, yeah, follow us on WeChat. So we will post more events like ELTea Times, like webinars on these two channels. Yeah, stay tuned, and we will come back very soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, so,
take care. Have a great evening.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Have a great evening. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.